67 years old, alarm goes off at 6 a.m., your back is already hurting before your feet hit the floor. You've got a shift in 2 hours. Not a meeting, a shift. Behind a register at a grocery store. 8 hours on your feet, 6 more to go before you can sit down. This is not a nightmare. This is Tuesday. And the most dangerous part, the person living that Tuesday had a job, had a 401k, owned a home, told themselves they were handling it. They were hitting 5 of the 7 signs I'm about to show you, and they had zero idea any of them were signs. Here's the number that should stop you cold. Social Security pays the average American $1,907 a month. The average American rent is $1,987. Social Security doesn't even cover rent, not groceries, not utilities, not a single doctor's visit, just rent. And it doesn't cover that. That is the retirement most Americans are building right now, not because they're lazy, because nobody showed them the signs early enough. Sign 7 is going to hit the hardest because the people who hit sign 7 genuinely believe they've already solved their retirement. I'm going to show you exactly why that belief is the most dangerous one of all. Welcome to Floxy Wealth Coach. I'm Floxy. This channel exists for one reason, to make sure that Tuesday never becomes your life. If you're new here, subscribe right now because the next 30 minutes might be the most important financial conversation you've ever had. Let's get into it. Here's the first sign, and I need you to really hear this one because this sign is going to describe someone responsible, someone disciplined, someone who actually saves money every month, and that person is still heading toward a broke retirement. Here's what's happening. Millions of Americans have money sitting in a savings account right now. Real money, $10,000, $20,000. Some of you have $30,000 or more just sitting there. And every time you check that balance, you feel it. A little relief, a little pride. You're not like those people who spend everything they earn. You save. And that feeling, that sense of responsibility, is quietly destroying your retirement. Here's why. That money in your Chase savings account is earning between 0.01% and 0.5% interest per year. Meanwhile, inflation is running at 3% annually, which means every single year, your savings account is losing purchasing power. The money is technically there, but what it can buy is shrinking. You are working hard to save money that is silently losing value while you sleep. Now, watch what happens somewhere else. The Federal Reserve's own data shows the median retirement savings for Americans aged 35 to 44 is $45,000. Fidelity says you need 3 times your salary saved by 40. For someone earning $70,000, that's $210,000. The average American has $45,000. That gap is almost entirely explained by one thing. People saved. They just saved in the wrong place. $500 a month in a savings account over 25 years at 0.5% interest per year, you end up with $162,000. Your contributions plus almost nothing. $500 a month in a 401k invested in a simple index fund at 7% annual return over 25 years, $405,000. Same 500, same 25 years, $243,000 difference. That is not a small mistake. That is $250,000 lost to the wrong address for your money. Meet David, 41 years old, software engineer in Ohio, $95,000 a year. $28,000 sitting in his savings account. He checks it regularly. He feels like a saver, but his 401k, $19,000. He contributes just enough to get his employer match, then stops because the savings account feels safer, more real. David was never taught the difference between saving and investing. Nobody was. They taught you to save. They never told you that where you save is the entire game. That is not your failure. That's a system that profits from your money sitting still. But now you know. And sign 2 is where it gets worse, because sign 2 is about something most Americans consider their greatest financial achievement. And for millions of people, it is actually their biggest financial trap. When you bought your home, how did it feel? For most Americans, it felt like winning, like finally doing the adult thing, like making the smart, responsible, generational wealth move that everyone, your parents, your coworkers, every financial commercial you've ever seen, told you to make. Renting is throwing money away. Buying is building equity. You've heard that your entire life. And for millions of Americans who bought homes between 2020 and 2023, that belief didn't build wealth. It built a trap. And right now, they're locked inside it. Here's the number that matters. Your housing costs, mortgage, insurance, taxes, HOA, should not exceed 30% of your gross income. That's the threshold. Above 30%, every extra dollar going to your house is a dollar that cannot go toward retirement. It is mathematically impossible to save adequately when your house is consuming so much of your paycheck. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Harvard's Joint Housing Study Center found home prices increased 47% between 2020 and 2024. 47%. Meanwhile, wages grew roughly 10%. The house got 47% more expensive, your paycheck got 10% bigger, and the mortgage rate went from 3% to 7%. The dream didn't change, the math did. Meet Kevin and Tanya. Married, combined income $90,000. Bought a home outside Atlanta in 2022, $380,000. 30-year mortgage at 6.8%. Monthly payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA, $2,850. Take-home pay after taxes, $5,900. Their mortgage alone is 48% of their take-home pay. After utilities, 2 car payments, groceries, and childcare, they have roughly $400 left at the end of every month. Kevin dropped his 401k contribution from 8% to 3% just to keep the lights on. Tanya paused hers entirely. They're not irresponsible. They qualified for that mortgage. The bank approved them. The real estate agent celebrated them. Nobody showed them what 6.8% interest does to a $380,000 home over 30 years. The answer is $505,000 in total interest. They'll pay for that house twice. And here's the part nobody mentions at the closing table. 22% of Americans aged 35 to 45 are house poor right now. More than 1 in 5 people in your exact age group are spending so much on their home they cannot build retirement wealth, regardless of their income. The house was supposed to be the plan. For millions of Americans, the house ate the plan. This is not about whether you should own a home. Home ownership can build wealth when the numbers work. But when the mortgage consumes half your paycheck, the house isn't your biggest asset. It's your biggest liability. And right behind that house payment, there's something sitting in your driveway, something shinier, something costing you even more than you think. Sign 3 is the one most Americans will argue with me about until they see the number. I'm going to give you a number first. Then I'll tell you what it means. $500,000. That is the minimum amount the average American will spend on vehicles over their lifetime. Payments, insurance, maintenance, fuel, depreciation. Add it all up across 40 years of adult life, $500,000 is the conservative estimate. 2-car households hit $750,000. $500,000 in metal that loses value the moment it leaves the dealership. Here's what that number actually is. That $500,000 is a retirement account you never opened. The average new car payment in America right now is $735 a month. That is not a rumor. That is the actual 2025 average according to LendingTree. Most American households have 2 vehicles. That's $1,470 a month, $17,640 a year, leaving your driveway every single month in something worth less today than it was yesterday. Here's the math that should make you pause this video. A 30-year-old who takes just one of those car payments, $735 a month, and invests it instead for 35 years at 7% annual return, ends up with $1,290,000 at age 65. One car payment, $1.29 million. Most Americans have 2. Meet James, 47 years old, small business owner in Phoenix. James has made car payments every single month since he was 23, 24 consecutive years. Every 4 or 5 years, he upgrades, always with a payment, always with a justification. He needs reliable transportation. He deserves something nice. He works hard. James has $41,000 in his retirement account. His neighbor, Robert, bought a used Honda Accord in 2013 for $12,000 cash, drove it 11 years, put the $600 he wasn't spending on a car payment straight into an index fund. Robert is 61. He has $340,000 more in retirement savings than James. Same neighborhood, same income range, completely different decision about what sits in the driveway. James isn't reckless. James was handed a culture that made the car payment feel normal, feel responsible even. The auto industry spent billions making sure that feeling exists. Dealer financing is not designed to help you buy a car. It is designed to keep you in a permanent monthly payment for the rest of your working life. And it is working perfectly. This is not about driving a broken-down vehicle. This is about understanding that every car payment has a second price tag you never see at the dealership. The sticker price is what the car costs. The real price is the retirement it is silently consuming. 90% of Americans are driving cars they cannot truly afford. Not because they're reckless, because nobody ever showed them the second price tag. Now you've seen it. But it gets worse, because some of you have already done something with your retirement account but felt completely justified at the time. The paperwork made it look manageable. But what it actually cost you wasn't what you withdrew. It was what that money would have become. Sign 4 is the one that hits different, because the damage is invisible until it's too late to fix. Think back. Has there ever been a moment, a medical bill, a job loss, a roof, a car repair, a family emergency, where you looked at your 401k balance and thought, I could just take some out, just this once, I'll put it back? If you've had that thought, you are not alone, not even close. During COVID alone, Americans withdrew over $36 billion from retirement accounts under the CARES Act. $36 billion. And before COVID, the IRS was processing millions of early withdrawal penalties every single year. This is not rare behavior. This is an American epidemic dressed up as emergency decision-making. Here's what nobody tells you at the moment you make that call. When you withdraw $20,000 from your 401k at age 40, you do not lose $20,000. You lose the 10% early withdrawal penalty, then income taxes on the full amount, another 22% depending on your bracket. By the time the check clears, that $20,000 withdrawal puts roughly $13,000 in your hand. You paid $7,000 to access your own money. But that is not the real cost, not even close. That $20,000 left alone from age 40 to 67, growing at 7% annual return, becomes $103,000. You traded $103,000 in retirement security for a $13,000 check. That is the actual transaction. That is what the paperwork never shows you. Meet Robert and Maria. Robert is 51, Maria is 48, outside Dallas. Over 12 years, they made 4 withdrawals from their combined 401k accounts. $11,000 in 2013 for a medical bill, $18,000 in 2017 when Robert's hours were cut, $22,000 in 2020 during the COVID layoff, $9,000 in 2022 when the AC unit failed in a Texas summer and they had no other option. Every single withdrawal felt justified. Their combined 401k balance today is $67,000. If those 4 withdrawals had stayed invested, growing at 7% from the date of each withdrawal to their retirement at 67, those accounts would have $271,000 more than they have right now. $271,000. Gone. Not from bad investments, not from a market crash, from 4 decisions that each felt like the only option at the time. And here's what makes this sign so devastating. Because Robert and Maria aren't done. They still have no emergency fund, which means the next crisis, and there will be a next crisis, goes straight back to the 401k. The The withdrawal wasn't the problem. The absence of a buffer was. I'm coming back to that in sign 6. But right now, I need to talk about something that happens on the good days, not the emergencies, the promotions, the raises, the bonuses. Because sign 5 is the sign that destroys the highest earners, and it feels exactly like success while it's happening. Think about the last time you got a raise. What happened next? Not that week, over the following 6 months. Did anything change? The apartment, the car, the restaurants, the vacations, the subscriptions, the kids' activities, the home renovation you finally felt ready for. If something changed, if the lifestyle quietly expanded to meet the new income, you just experienced the most socially celebrated retirement killer in America. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it is the primary reason high-income Americans retire broke. Here's the math that makes this undeniable. An American who earns $60,000 at 30 and grows their income to $120,000 by 45, but expands their lifestyle to consume every single raise along the way, arrives at retirement worse in a position than someone who earned $60,000 their entire career and saved 20% consistently. Read that again. More income, worse retirement, because the lifestyle consumed every dollar before it could become wealth. The Federal Reserve confirms it. 48% of Americans earning $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. Not people earning $30,000, people earning $100,000. The income went up, the savings rate never moved. Meet Christine, 48 years old. Here's her timeline. Age 28, first real job, $44,000. Modest apartment in Charlotte, used car. Cooking at home 5 nights a week, saving $300 a month. Age 33, promotion, $67,000. Nicer apartment, car payment begins. Dining out 3 times a week, still saving $300 a month. Age 38, manager, $91,000. House at the top of her budget, 2 car payments, family vacation on a credit card, still saving $300 a month. Christine tripled her income in 16 years. Her retirement contribution never moved once. The lifestyle absorbed every raise before it reached her future. She is 48 years old. She earns $128,000 a year, and she is behind on retirement by roughly the same amount as someone who earned $44,000 their whole career. That is what lifestyle inflation does. It creates the illusion of wealth while systematically preventing its construction. And here's the part that stings, because signs 1 through 5 are serious, but sign 6 is the one that turns all of them into a catastrophe, because sign 6 is about what happens when any one of these mistakes collides with a single bad month. And for most Americans, that bad month is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Answer this question honestly, not out loud, just in your head. If you lost your job tomorrow, or your transmission blew, or the furnace died, or somebody in your family had a medical emergency that cost $8,000, how long could you survive without touching your 401k or putting it on a credit card? Be honest. If the answer is less than 3 months, you are financially fragile, and financial fragility at 40 is not a poverty problem. It is not an income problem. It is a structure problem, and it is far more common at your income level than you have been led to believe. The Federal Reserve found that nearly 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money. Not $40,000, not $4,000, $400. And that number reaches deep into households earning $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year. Because the problem is not how much is coming in. The problem is that nothing is being kept. Every month ends near zero, and near zero means one unexpected event away from a cascade. Here's exactly what that cascade looks like. Meet Brian and Claudette. Dual income household outside Cincinnati. Dual combined income, $95,000. 2 kids, mortgage, 2 car payments. Not irresponsible people, they just never built a buffer. Every month, the accounts finish close to empty, and they tell themselves they'll start the emergency fund next month. Next month never comes. March, Brian's company downsizes. He's out. They have 11 days of expenses saved. April. Behind on the mortgage, Claudette picks up extra shifts, not enough. Personal loan application denied. Credit cards up $3,200. May, they pull $14,000 from Brian's 401k to cover the mortgage arrears and keep the lights on. That loan gets repaid with after-tax dollars, and if Brian doesn't find work fast, it converts to a taxable withdrawal with penalties. July. Brian finds a new job, $12,000 less per year than the old one. Credit cards now carry $9,800 at 24% interest. The 401k loan is being repaid, but growth on that $14,000 has stopped entirely. December. Technically stable, but the retirement account is gutted. Credit score down 80 points, nearly $10,000 in high-interest debt, starting their mid-40s essentially back at zero. The job loss lasted 9 months. The financial damage will last a decade. And here's what I need you to understand. The emergency did not create this disaster. Emergencies happen to everyone. What created this disaster was the absence of a buffer. Without 3 to 6 months of expenses in a separate, untouched account, every crisis becomes a retirement crisis. Financial fragility doesn't just hurt you today. It reaches 20 years into your future and takes money you haven't even saved yet. You can earn $95,000 a year and still be one bad month away from permanent retirement damage. Brian and Claudette just proved it. Now I need to show you sign 7 because everything we've talked about, the savings account, the house, the car, the withdrawals, the lifestyle, the fragility, all of it feeds into one final devastating mistake. The one most people watching this video are making right now. The one that feels the least like a mistake because it comes wrapped in something that looks exactly like a plan. Let me tell you the most dangerous sentence in American retirement planning. I'll be fine, I have my 401k, the house will be paid off, and Social Security will cover the basics. You have heard someone say that. Maybe you have said it yourself. It sounds reasonable, it sounds responsible, it sounds like a plan. It is not a plan, it is a wish. And the difference between those two things is the difference between Tuesday at home and Tuesday behind a register at 67. Here's what that plan is missing. No room for a layoff at 58 that takes 2 years to recover from. No room for a divorce, and according to Prudential, the average divorce reduces retirement savings by 50%. No room for a medical event. The average cancer treatment in America costs $150,000. Even with insurance, a family pays $50,000 to $138,000 out of pocket. No room for a market crash at 63 that cuts the portfolio by 35% right when there is no time left to recover. No room for a child who needs financial support longer than expected. Any single one of those events is common in real American life. A retirement strategy with no margin for any of them is not a strategy. It is optimism with a spreadsheet attached. Here's where the math gets truly brutal. The average monthly Social Security benefit in 2025 is $1,907. The average American rent in 2025 is $1,987. Social Security alone does not cover rent. Not groceries, not utilities, not transportation, not healthcare, just rent. And it does not even cover that. It gets worse. The Social Security Administration's own projections show the trust fund depletes by 2033. Unless Congress acts, benefits get automatically cut by 23%. That average $1,907 monthly benefit drops to $1,468. $1,468 a month for rent, food, utilities, transportation, healthcare. Everything. That's $17,616 a year for everything. Meet Robert, 61 years old, 3 years from his planned retirement date, $40,000 saved, owns a house with 8 years left on the mortgage, been telling himself for 15 years that Social Security plus his 401k plus the house equity adds up to enough. It does not add up to enough. Not even close. Robert's plan had no stress test, no what if, no margin, built entirely on best-case assumptions in a country where the average 40-year-old has a 30% chance of becoming disabled before retirement, where 530,000 families file medical bankruptcy every single year, where the retirement system itself is projected to cut benefits by nearly a quarter within a decade. Robert did not fail to plan. He planned. He just planned for a version of life that doesn't exist. Here's the truth nobody told Robert. Nobody told all of us. The shift from guaranteed pensions to self-directed 401k plans since the 1980s transferred every single retirement risk, market crashes, inflation, longevity, healthcare, from employers and the government directly onto individual workers who were never trained to manage those risks. An entire generation was handed the most complex financial instrument of their lives and told to figure it out. That's the real villain in this story, not you. But right now, in this moment, you have something Robert didn't have at your age. You have the truth. And the truth, uncomfortable as it is the only thing that still gives you time to change the outcome. Which brings me to the one thing I want you to do before you go to sleep tonight. Remember that image from the beginning? 67 years old, 6 a.m. alarm, back already hurting before your feet hit the floor, 8 hours behind a register. Not because you want to be there, because the math didn't work out, and nobody showed you the signs early enough. That Tuesday is not your destiny, but it is the default, and defaults only change when you make a deliberate decision to change them. So here's your one step, not a list, not a system, one step. Tonight, log into your 401k account right now before you do anything else. Find two numbers. What percentage of your income are you currently contributing, and what is your employer match? If you are contributing less than enough to capture your full employer match, you're leaving free money on the table every pay period. That match is an instant 50 to 100% return on your contribution before the market does a single thing. There's no investment on earth that beats it. Increase your contribution by just 2% tonight. Not 10%, not 15%, 2%. For most people watching this, that's $50 to $100 a pay period. The lifestyle adjustment is barely noticeable. The retirement impact over 25 years at 7% return is between $80,000 and $160,000. 2%. Tonight, before you sleep. That's how Tuesday changes, not with a dramatic overhaul, with one decision made on one ordinary evening before anything else gets in the way. You now know the 7 signs, you know which ones you're hitting, and you know the first move. The only question left is whether you make it. I'm Floxy, and I'll see you in the next one.